So in this episode, we are going to break down the age-old question, should I rent or should I buy? There's lots of pros and cons to both. We understand that it makes sense to rent or buy in different seasons of your life. So we're going to break down some pros and cons. Let's start with renting.
Okay, so the first pro we're going to talk about for renting is there's really no maintenance whenever you're renting a property. The homeowner or the property management company handles all of the maintenance for you, which is really nice in a certain situation.
It saves you some money. You can just make a phone call to get it fixed when you need something done. Another pro to renting is the flexibility that it gives you. Sometimes you're in a season of life where you just need to rent somewhere short term, or maybe you're just not sure if you're going to stay in a city very long. Renting gives you that option just to rent for a short period of time and decide where you want to be long term.
Another pro with renting is it's less money up front. So this is really important in a really expensive market where it takes a lot of money for a down payment on a house. Whenever you rent, all you have is your first month rent and sometimes a deposit. So for some people, this helps them from getting in over their head financially by buying a home.
Now let's talk about some cons to renting versus buying a house. The first one and the big one is when you're renting, you're kind of throwing money away on a monthly basis where that money could be going towards equity in your own property. And that's really the biggest decision that a lot of people make when they go from renting to buying, is because they've spent years and years paying somebody else to live somewhere when they could be paying themselves towards equity on a home.
And this one's twofold, because not only are you not getting the pay down by making the monthly payment, but you also don't get the appreciation when you own a home.
And we'll go over an example here in a little bit of how much money you can make by owning your own home in a period of time.
Another con with renting is, especially if you're in an apartment community of some sort, is noisy neighbors and really lack of privacy. Everyone's on top of each other. You don't have a garage. It's a really kind of worst case scenario as far as how you're living. Another con, I would say, would be not being able to customize your property at all. As a homeowner, that's one of the most fun things I think you can do as far as updates and remodels and changing things up, and you just don't have that luxury whenever you're renting someone else's home.
Next thing we want to talk about is owning your own home and the pros and cons to doing that. The very first one is the equity that you build up while you're paying for your mortgage. We kind of alluded to this before. Really, the big thing with renting is you're putting that money in someone else's pocket to pay down the mortgage. When you own your own house, you're putting that towards your own equity. And so we've got an example, just kind of running through some numbers. The average age in the US to buy their first home is 32 years old. So for all of you first-time home buyers who are younger, it's really cool to see the numbers whenever you buy a home early on in your life. And so if you can start saving up, here's an example. If you want to buy a $150,000 house, okay, at 22 years old, so we're going to do 10 years prior to the national average, okay, and you want to take advantage of an FHA loan, which is a government loan, and we won't get into the details of that, but you need 3.5% as a down payment for that house, which would be $5,250, okay? You add in some closing costs, okay? Once again, we're not going to go into the details of that, but that runs about $4,000. So you need to save up $9,250 to buy your first house, okay? So let's say you do that at age 22, 10 years of paying that mortgage. Now your house mortgage total is $113,334, okay? Don't get lost in the numbers here. But you go from a $150,000 house to $113,000 after 10 years. If your home appreciates 3% year over year, like we've seen pretty consistently over the last few years, your home is now going to be worth $201,000, okay, after that 10-year span. That means you've built up an equity of $88,253. Congratulations. By buying a house 10 years earlier than the national average. So just kind of look at those numbers and see how much you can have in your pocket after, if you rent for 10 years, that money's just gone. The cool thing about appreciation is some years that appreciation will actually go up quite a bit. And we've seen that over the last few years where the average is about 3% year over year. We've had a few that have gone 4, 5, 6% in appreciation year over year. And you can see how much quicker you can get to that $200,000 mark on a $150,000 house, even over, the 10-year example that we gave.
And something else that most people don't think about is, in this example, the house payment was between $700 and $800 a month. That's normally lower than what you can pay in rent for a house or an apartment somewhere else. So you can see you're actually paying less on a monthly basis. It's going towards the principal, and you have the appreciation.
Another pro to owning your own house is the fact that you can customize things. We did put that in the con category with renting. And when you own your own house, you can paint the walls whatever color you want. You can knock down the walls. You can customize it just the way that you like it.
Now let's talk about some of the cons of home ownership, or maybe the hurdles that are holding some people back from moving forward and purchasing their first house. So let's talk about the person who says, I don't have enough money for a down payment.
It's a great question. We get a lot of people that say, hey, I can't buy a house. I don't have much money. And honestly, in our personal opinions, we do recommend saving up some money so you're in a good position when you buy a house. You don't want to be house poor. But there are opportunities to purchase a home with little to no money down. There are certain loan products out there that can get you in a home with 100% financing and creative ways that you can purchase a house without bringing 20% down.
Another con with home ownership is the risk as far as repairs and maintenance. That was one of the pros as far as renting, that you don't have to take care of it. So what advice would you give maybe someone who has that concern?
At the end of the day, it is your house, and if something breaks, you've got to be the one to fix it. That's kind of why we mentioned it's a good idea to save up some money, have an emergency fund for those very reasons. There are times when your roof's going to leak or something's going to break, and you've got to foot the bill for that. But we feel like that owning your own home and the benefits that you're getting far outweigh those possible repairs in the future.
Okay, there's some pros and cons for you, both for renting and for owning a home. If you are currently renting and you're curious about purchasing a home or have questions about it, we would love the opportunity to sit down and help guide you through that process.
If you have specific questions, feel free to comment below on this video and we will get back to you, or you can reach out to any Alpha agent. And at the end of the day, we hope that you can hold this sign at closing day when you buy your first house. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
I don't think so. Just leave it. It'd be funny.
Noisy neighbors.
Yeah. For example, Mr. Leaf Blower down here.
Get out of here, bitch.
We could say, hey, you start reacting like that, it's gonna sting you. Here, I'll hold it like up here, like a sword. Pull it out like a sword.
Or I could do this. Equity. So we've got an example for you. You dummy hit my phone. I'm like, crap, why did I stick it? If you don't have any money,
Rent.